As an audience retention producer,
Good boy,
I'd
stay
hook
focused.
viewers with one promise. This story never unfolds
Good
the
boy,
way
you ready to
expect. It opens with Maya Cole
All right,
in the
let's
dirt,
move out.
kicked down and laughed at,
Target
but that
locked.
humiliation
Coordinates
is only
confirmed.
the beginning.
Copy. Awaiting green
Beneath
light.
the
Green light.
insults is a
Execute
covert
now.
mission.
Roger that.
A chain of betrayal.
Go.
A
Take
coming
him down.
takedown.
Moving
and
to
a
cover.
heroine
Go.
who weaponizes being underestimated. Stay for the fall.
Target
Because the
confirmed.
comeback is
Move out.
colder,
Good
smarter,
boy. Track the scent.
and far more ruthless than anyone sees coming. A boot slammed into Maya Cole's ribs without any warning. The impact threw her to the ground, where sharp gravel bit into her palms and stole the air from her lungs. 4 soldiers stood over her, laughing like it was the funniest joke they had ever heard. Master Sergeant Victor Harmon's voice was full of scorn. "Get up, you coward! Oh, I forgot. Analysts do not fight. They just shuffle papers." But the woman they saw as a weak target was already calculating her next move. If that scene made your blood boil, you are in the right place. Be sure to subscribe because Maya's revenge is not what you might expect. Let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I love to see how far these stories travel. Fort Cambria was an island of grit, 40 miles from anywhere that mattered. The air was thick with the scent of diesel, gun oil, and burnt coffee. On this base, a man was judged by his brawn and his tours of duty. Rank was everything, and being a woman was a distinct handicap. Maya Cole had survived here for 11 days by being completely invisible. Her anonymity was a carefully crafted shield. A plain uniform and a withdrawn demeanor helped her blend into the background. Her official files said she was just an intel analyst on a temporary assignment. By her side at all times was Remy, a German shepherd whose sharp amber eyes missed nothing. He could sense the tension in the atmosphere just as Maya could read the true intentions behind a person's words. She was heading for the East Warehouse when a sharp, commanding voice stopped her cold, a voice that was not used to being ignored. "Hey you, analyst." She stopped and turned around with deliberate calm. Master Sergeant Victor Harmon was built like a truck, with a permanent scowl etched onto his face. At 42, his 3 combat tours had chiseled his features into hard lines. 3 other soldiers stood with him, all of them smirking like they were ready for a fight. "This area is off limits," Harmon announced flatly. Maya looked down the corridor, then met his gaze. "My security badge opened the gate, Sergeant. I do not care about your badge." He moved toward her, closing the gap. "Let me be perfectly clear. You are not wanted here." Remy's body went taut, a subtle shift that only Maya could feel through the leash. "Easy," she whispered, the command as much for herself as for her dog. One of Harmon's men, a young soldier of about 24, with a sharp face, smirked. "Is that a real working dog, or your emotional support animal? You seem like you need it." The other men chuckled. Harmon was silent, just watching Maya, sizing her up. "State your purpose," he demanded. "Intelligence," she replied. "My mission is classified far above your clearance level, Sergeant." It was the wrong choice of words. She watched his whole body go rigid. A muscle in his jaw jumped, and his hands clenched into tight fists. "Above my clearance," Harmon repeated, his voice filled with pure resentment. "You have been here 11 days, saying nothing, just wandering around with that mutt like you own the place." "Remy is a certified 9, Maya stated evenly, "and my orders grant me access to all sectors of this base." "Your orders," he sneered at her. Right. In that moment, her instincts screamed at her to leave. It was the sensible thing to do. But she could not turn her back. She had to watch what he did with his hands. His hands were the tell. The attack, however, came from his subordinate, the sharp-faced young man. He did not aim for her legs, which would have been clumsy. He drove his boot into her ribs, a professional strike meant to cause damage while looking accidental. The force was brutal. Maya hit the deck and did not move. Remy instantly reacted with cold, controlled fury. The sound he made was not a bark, but a deep rumble that promised a world of hurt. He lunged, straining the leash, but Maya's grip was like iron, even as she lay on the gravel. "Remy Platz," she commanded in German, The dog immediately dropped to the ground, but his eyes stayed locked on the soldier, who took a nervous step back. The laughter died. Harmon looked from Maya to the dog. His next move revealed his true nature. He squatted down to meet her eyes, a nasty smile twisting his face. "On your feet, weakling," he muttered. "Oh, right. Analysts cannot get up. They just lie there and write reports nobody reads." He rose and sauntered away. His men trailed behind, one still snickering under his breath. Then it was quiet. Maya stayed on the ground, taking calm, even breaths. She mentally checked her ribs. 2 were bruised, she guessed, but not broken. She pictured their boots. The attacker wore a size 12 with a worn heel. Harmon's boots were regulation size 11.5, polished to a mirror shine. Another man had a slight limp, a telltale sign of an old injury. She recorded every detail in her mind. Then she got up, dusted the grit from her scraped palms, gave Remy a pat, and walked to the storage building. The man she was looking for, Lieutenant Frank DeVere, was already inside. He was facing away, absorbed in his phone. The moment he heard her, he froze. That reaction was all she needed. "Lieutenant." He whipped around. He was in his mid-40s, thin, with restless eyes that never settled on anything. "How can I assist you?" "I am here to conduct a routine equipment audit," Maya said, holding up a tablet as a prop. "This should only take a moment." "I was not notified about an audit," DeVere said, his voice tense. "It is just standard procedure," she replied, with a warm, disarming smile. "Command wants to verify the satellite communications inventory for the budget. You know the drill." DeVere's gaze shifted from her tablet to Remy. "What is the dog for?" "He is my partner," Maya said. "He is cleared for all areas." A flash of panic crossed DeVere's face. He took a tiny step away from his desk, a nearly invisible movement. "Please, proceed." Maya went over to the communications rack, but her eyes were on his workbench. A faint smudge marked where a device had just been sitting. Near a power outlet, there were fresh scratches. She was looking at the signs of a man who just used a hidden phone. "It appears everything is in order," she said cheerfully, tapping the tablet a few times. "Thank you for your time, Lieutenant." She and Remy turned and walked out. She was about 40 feet down the hall when she heard DeVere making a call. She kept walking without looking back, but she heard his frantic, hushed words. Just 5 of them. She was just in here. Maya went around a corner and leaned against the wall. She pressed a hand to her sore side, using the sharp pain to focus. It was a reminder of the 19 American soldiers who were dead. 19 operators, killed on 3 separate missions in the last 8 months. Each team had walked into an ambush. Someone was leaking their positions. Maya's job was to find that leak. She had spent 11 days on this base. She had been assaulted by a group of soldiers. A man who would forget her existence in a few months had insulted her. And now, trusting an instinct honed by years of work, she knew the man behind 19 deaths had just made a very panicked phone call. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. It listed 3 names. She looked at the second one and drew a firm line through it. She wrote the name DeVere above it. Then she tucked it away, looked down at Remy, and said, "Okay, boy, we have him." Remy met her eyes, his tail giving a single, knowing thump against the concrete. Down the hallway, Harmon's men were laughing about the analyst they had pushed around. The story was already becoming a great tale to pass the time on a slow Tuesday, getting more exaggerated with each telling. They had no idea that the most lethal operative on the installation stood just 40 feet from them. A woman with scraped hands, a German shepherd, and the memory of 19 dead soldiers. They were oblivious that their casual cruelty had just given her the final piece of her mission. Nobody on this base had a clue who Maya Cole truly was, and she liked keeping it that way. She had memorized Ray Solis's service record long before arriving. The details were crucial. She had circled his name twice on her first night at Fort Cambria, her pen clicking 6 times as she studied the file. Chief Warrant Officer Ray Solis, age 41, was a veteran of 11 years. His record included 2 silver stars, a Purple Heart, and a quiet reprimand from 8 months ago. The document was vague, but it showed Solis had disputed the intelligence for an operation called Cold Water. For the 3rd consecutive time, a mission had ended in total failure. Operation Cold Water cost the lives of 6 American soldiers. Solis was deliberately kept out of the official review. Maya found him by himself in the vehicle bay, his focus on an engine, seemingly to occupy his hands. She addressed him formally, Chief Warrant Officer Solis. His head came up. His broad, rugged face and dark eyes took her measure in less than 2 seconds, then shifted to Remy. Maya saw real, immediate respect in his eyes. This was not the empty compliment people give working dogs to appear nice. It was genuine, evident in his easy posture and the slow, deep breath he took. "That is a fine-looking shepherd," he observed. Maya replied, "His name is Remy." Solis then asked, "What did you do to your hands?" She looked down at her red, scraped palms. "I had a minor tumble." He studied her for a moment. "Did that happen in Harmon's hallway or over at the East Bay?" The question was unexpected. Maya's face remained neutral, but her assessment of him changed instantly. "So you know about it." "I know Harmon treats that hallway like his personal kingdom, and I know you were in that area this morning," Solis answered, putting his wrench aside. "Word gets around fast on a small base, particularly when some find the story amusing. Do you find it amusing?" "I find it pointless," he stated flatly. "I also have a feeling, whoever you might be, that you are not here to inspect our gear." The mood between them changed. Maya studied his hands, his stance. He projected an aura of complete honesty. It was not a practiced candor, which is its own red flag, but the easy self-assurance of someone who is done with pretenses. "What makes you say that?" she inquired. "You do not carry yourself like a desk jockey," Solis replied. "Plus, that is a service dog, not a therapy pet. I can see it in his posture." He retrieved the wrench, rotating it in his grasp. "You can either explain why you are here, or we can end this nice conversation and both be on our way." Maya observed him for a solid 3 seconds, more time than she typically required to size a person up. "Cold water," she said simply. The tool froze in his hand. "What about it?" he questioned. His tone deeper now, more weighted. "You expressed concerns about the intel before the mission began, and I was told to back off." His jaw clenched. "We lost 6 members of our team." "The number is actually 7, Maya corrected. "The 7th casualty was not formally linked to the operation, but the circumstances match. I am also convinced the informant who sabotaged Cold Water caused the following 2 mission failures." Solis placed the wrench back on the table. He did not reach for it again. 19 souls. 19. A profound quiet settled in the air. Maya let it remain, knowing from hard lessons that breaking such a silence is a critical mistake. "Who are you?" Solis finally demanded, his tone more of an order than a question. "My job is to stop a 20th death," she answered, "and I need to know right now if you will assist me, or if this is where we part ways." Solis glanced at Remy. The dog met his gaze with a steady, profound patience that never ceased to impress Maya. The stillness was absolute and intentional. "What do you need me to do?" Solis inquired. For a fleeting instant, Maya experienced something beyond her typical composure. It felt like relief, a feeling she allowed for a brief moment, then dismissed. "I need Dever's communication records for the last 60 days, she said. "Not the official records. I need the hidden ones." Solis's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "You already suspect Dever." "My suspicions were confirmed this morning. He made a phone call fewer than 30 seconds after I left the supply area. His anxiety made him careless." "Dever has been stationed here for 3 years, Solis mused. "He can see every mission plan that passes through here. I know. And he is also Harmon's go-to guy on this post," Solis added. "They are always together. Go after Devere, and Harmon will know. Harmon loves to talk. I am counting on it, Maya replied. That is why having Harmon think I am a useless analyst is the best weapon I have acquired all day. Solis simply stared at her. A hint of a reluctant smile touched his lips before disappearing. You just took that from him. I allowed it to happen, she clarified. There is a difference. At that moment, Solis decided. Maya watched the shift happen. He wore the look of someone who had absorbed a grim truth and was now reorienting his reality to face it. He stood up a little taller. He breathed out deliberately. His hands stopped moving. I know someone you need to talk to, he stated. Sergeant Elena Marsh. She handles our communications. If those logs can be pulled without setting off alerts, she is the one who can do it. Can she be trusted? I would stake my life on it, Solis answered. I already have, on 2 occasions. Arrange a meeting, Maya commanded. Tonight, in a place Devere avoids. As she started to walk away, Solis spoke. He only said, Hey, but it had enough weight to stop her. She waited. Those 19 soldiers, he began. I knew some of them. I am aware, Maya said, not looking back. It is one of the reasons I came to you. She walked back to her desk with Remy, certain of a single fact. She had secured one ally on a base where she was seen as either a fool or a problem. One was enough to begin. It was always enough. What she was not aware of, and would not learn for another 3 hours, was that Devere made a second call. The recipient was not the contact she had been tracking for 4 months. It was a new player, an unfamiliar name, someone who knew of Maya Cole, knew of her mission, and was already setting a trap. Elena Marsh was compact and intelligent, someone who obviously used her unassuming appearance as a weapon. She came to the meeting holding a tablet, her face indicating she had already pieced some things together. Her eyes went to Maya. She noted the raw cuts on her hands. She looked at Remy. Then she took a seat. Ray mentioned you need Devere's unofficial comms history, Marsh stated directly. Correct, Maya affirmed. That will be difficult. I understand. If it were easy, I would have done it myself, Maya replied. My point is, getting them without Devere receiving an instant notification is nearly impossible. How much time would you need to access them silently? Marsh considered this, looking up for a second. 48 hours. Maybe faster if I use the secondary diagnostic system, but that is only accessible during the Thursday service window. Thursday is in 31 hours, Maya noted. Yes, I know. How much damage can Devere cause in 31 hours? Marsh and Solis shared a glance. It was a look that passes between people who have discussed a hard topic and are now choosing what to share. Show her, Solis said. Marsh set her tablet down. It displayed a mission brief for a routine extraction, but this operation was scheduled for 72 hours from now, for a key individual who had been in hiding for 3 weeks for this exact chance. Marsh added quietly that the file appeared on Devere's desk 4 days ago. Maya gazed at the screen. A familiar ache started in her chest, and her hands began to sting again. The number 19 resonated in her mind. He has already seen it, Maya said flatly. Correct, which means our asset has been compromised. Not for certain, Marsh countered. It means we have 72 hours to feed Devere bad intel and use his own network to find his contact before he realizes what we are doing. Silence fell. Remy pressed against Maya's leg. His solid weight was a comfort, a firm reminder of the mission. Maya saw a major flaw in the strategy. The trick would only work if Devere fully believed it. To make that happen, Maya explained, the information has to originate from someone he trusts without question. A tense silence descended. She let a single name hang in the air. Harmon. The atmosphere grew heavy. Solis spoke carefully, but Harmon knows nothing about what Devere is doing. Exactly, Maya said. And Devere does not know that Harmon attacked me this morning. She looked at them both. Harmon thinks I am a nobody. Since Devere is watching me, he is also watching anyone who interacts with me, especially someone who harasses me. Maya paused to let her plans sink in. We need Harmon to be himself. Cocky, condescending, and absolutely certain that I am no threat. Marsh tilted her head. So you are going to play him like a fiddle. Harmon volunteered for the part, Maya said simply. Solace gave a short, harsh laugh. He will not enjoy finding out he was used. He is not going to find out, Maya corrected. Not until this is all over. Her tone was even, without a trace of rage. But they both felt something more. This was not just a mission. It was payback, served by a woman who holds a grudge and settles every debt. The entire meeting was over in just 12 minutes. As Maya walked to her quarters with Remy at her side, the hallway air felt heavy. It smelled of diesel fumes, old coffee, and the unique sadness of a military base after dark. Her mind, however, was on the unknown contact, the second person in Devere's phone who knew she was coming. A hidden enemy was operating on this base. For someone in her line of work, a secret foe is the most dangerous kind. She had until Thursday to find them. The breakthrough came at 2:47 in the morning, not from Devere's hidden papers or the base personnel files she had checked twice. The name was not in any official record. She found it hidden in the empty spaces between the data, a kind of digital void that only an expert in hiding could create. The name was Colonel Warren Phelps. Maya stared at the screen for a very long time. Remy slept at her feet, his breathing steady and calm. She sat in the silence, piecing together everything she knew about the man, trying to understand. Phelps had no official business at Fort Cambria. There were no visitor logs or phone records connecting him to the base. His service record was perfect, the kind of clean that hinted at a lot of effort to keep it that way. He was 56 and had served for 31 years, currently working in logistics at the Pentagon. His official job description sounded incredibly boring, a sure sign that it was a cover. She then discovered a travel expense claim, nearly buried in the financial files of another department. It showed he was within 40 miles of the base twice in the last 8 months. Both of these visits happened within 72 hours of a failed mission. Maya wrote his name under Devere's on her notepad. Seeing the two names together made everything click into place. It was a realization that struck her around 3 in the morning, the kind that only comes from 4 hours of sleep and aching ribs. This was not a single insider. It was a complete intelligence network. Devere was not just a lone traitor acting out of greed, belief, or some personal vendetta. He was just one piece of a much larger machine. He was a small part of a complex system, built over many years by someone with the influence and vision to create it in the shadows. Someone exactly like a colonel with a dull job and a flawless service record. Her thoughts turned to the 19 soldiers who had lost their lives. She remembered the pain in Solace's voice when he said some of them were his friends. She pictured the captive operative, with less than 69 hours before a rescue attempt that was probably already compromised. Then, she refocused her attention on Harmon. Harmon could still be a valuable piece of the puzzle, but she had not figured out exactly how to use him. She needed to craft a story for him that would play to his ego, his connections, and his inflated sense of importance, all while concealing the real situation. Harmon's weakness was his arrogant and overconfident personality. Men like him are simple to manage because they never imagine they could be used. She closed the laptop. She rested a hand on Remy, feeling the dog's steady breathing. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The next morning, Harmon approached her in the mess hall. As she tried to eat the bland food, he and 2 of his buddies trapped her. He approached with the easy confidence of someone who enjoys small displays of power. "How are the hands?" he asked, with a small smirk on his face. He clearly was not looking for a genuine answer. Maya glanced up from her meal. She paused for a single beat. "Much better," she said. "Thank you for asking, Sergeant." His confident smirk wavered. Politeness was the one thing he had not expected. He was ready for her silence or her fear, but she was perfectly calm. He was already adjusting his strategy without realizing it. He took the seat across from her without an invitation. His friends remained standing. "Did you file a report?" he asked. "Report what?" she replied. A strange look appeared on his face. It was not guilt. Harmon was not capable of feeling guilty. It was the look of a man calculating his odds. A look she knew all too well. He was trying to figure out if she was a threat. "About yesterday," he clarified. "Oh, that was not worth reporting," Maya answered cheerfully. "I just tripped. It was no big deal." She lifted her coffee mug. "It is so busy around here. Nobody has time to file paperwork over a little fall." Harmon watched her closely. The hand holding the mug was steady, and her expression was unreadable. "Right," he said, drawing out the word. "Right." Then she asked casually, "You and Lieutenant DeVere have been here for a while?" Her voice was light, as if she were just making small talk. His attention sharpened. 3 years. Why do you ask?" "Just getting to know the place." "He seems like a really good officer," Maya commented. "He is," Harmon confirmed. His voice held true devotion, the deep respect a soldier has for a beloved leader. "The best intelligence officer I have ever served with." "That is good to know," Maya said. She stood up, picked up her tray, and gave him a short, professional nod to end the discussion. "Have a good day, Sergeant." She could feel his stare on her back as she departed. Her walk was steady and calm. She did not look back. After returning her tray, she left through a side door, her pace never changing. 30 seconds later, Remy met her in the hallway, released by Solus as they had planned. She knelt, cupped the dog's head in her hands, and his gentle lick soothed her pain, a small comfort that felt immense. "You are such a good boy," she whispered. "Good boy." She stood back up. "Harmon is a problem," she said to Solus, who had walked up beside her. "But not in the way I expected. He has a true admiration for DeVere. If our plan fails and he learns the truth, it will crush him." Solus thought for a moment. "Should we change the plan?" "No," Maya answered. "But it does change how I feel about it." It was a rare moment of vulnerability for her. Solus seemed to understand and did not ask more questions. He simply walked beside her in silence. Later that night, at 11:17, the scheduled maintenance on the system began, and Elena Marsh went to work. Maya watched as Marsh moved through the system's defenses. Elena operated with the calm confidence of a ghost in the machine, leaving no trace of her presence. It was amazing to see her talent, a skill that appeared simple but was incredibly complex. "I am in the backup file," Marsh said quietly. "I will need about 10 minutes. Maya gave her 9. "Got it," Marsh announced. The monitor displayed 62 days of DeVere's hidden messages. They had been encrypted, bounced around, and deleted repeatedly, but the work was not perfect. The issue with complex security is that it is made to stop people who are merely curious, not those who are determined. Yet, feeling superior often makes people ignore those who are simply patient. Marsh began to untangle the digital knots. As Maya watched and compared the data with her own notes, a pattern started to emerge in her mind. It was not a map of places, but a timeline of betrayal that showed how long it took for data to travel from DeVere's terminal to a compromised operative. After 14 minutes, Marsh went still. "Maya," she said, her voice filled with alarm. Maya leaned in closer. The screen showed a message from 12 days ago, routed through 3 different servers instead of DeVere's usual computer. But the digital fingerprint hidden deep in the code was not fully erased. It was a careless slip-up, the kind a person makes after years of feeling untouchable and trusting their system too much. The digital evidence led straight to the Pentagon's logistics office, right to Colonel Warren Phelps's unit. "He knew I was coming," Maya said. Her voice was flat, stating a terrible fact without any emotion. "Phelps knew I was on my way here before I even set foot on this base." Marsh swiveled in her chair to face her. "That means this entire operation was compromised before it even began." Which means, Solus added from the doorway, having entered without a sound, that everything you have done for the past 11 days, every single conversation and move, might now be known to Phelps. A heavy silence fell over the room as they all grasped the terrible truth at the same time. Remy pressed his body hard against Maya's leg. For a long moment, she stood perfectly still, her thoughts racing through the last 11 days. It was like frantically searching for something precious inside a burning, collapsing building. She went over every meeting, every word spoken, and every step she had taken. "No," she said at last. The confidence in her voice made Solus and Marsh look at her. "He does not know everything. If Phelps was watching all of my movements, DeVere would not have been so surprised in that storage room. His reaction was authentic. He had no idea I was there. So, Phelps knows why I am here, but he cannot see my every move." "Model, what is your level of certainty on this?" Solus inquired. "It is certain enough to proceed," Maya responded. That was not the absolute promise he was hoping for, and it showed on his face. But it was a truthful answer. In the dark of night, with a data log shattering her theories, truth was her only asset. "The extraction happens in 67 hours, Marsh interjected. "I am quite aware of the timeline," Maya said. "If Harmon gets this false intel and DeVere passes it to Phelps, he will know we set him up," Marsh cautioned. "A man like Phelps can sense a trap. He will walk right into this one," Maya countered, "because it will confirm something he already believes is true." "And what does he believe is true?" Marsh asked. Maya envisioned the hallway, the sound of boots grinding, the noise of men laughing, and the absolute confidence of someone who was sure he had already won. "He believes I am failing," she stated. "He is sure I am pursuing something I will never find, and that the strain of this assignment has finally broken me." She paused, catching her breath. "He thinks this way because that is the exact narrative DeVere has fed him for 11 consecutive days." "So you are going to lean into that?" Solus asked, stating what was obvious. "My aim is to become the exact person who validates every single one of his false assumptions." Maya explained her strategy. "I am going to be an analyst who is completely out of her depth, pursuing the wrong target based on faulty information." She made eye contact with both of them. "If Phelps is convinced I am chasing shadows, he will leave the extraction alone. He will simply allow events to unfold. He will be certain that his own operation is totally secure. And our actual mission will proceed on a separate schedule." Marsh finished, at last grasping her plan. "On a schedule that DeVere has no knowledge of," Maya added, "because the timeline I am providing to DeVere is a complete fabrication. The silence that came after was new. It was the quiet of a tough puzzle finally being solved." Solus exhaled slowly. "This whole thing depends on DeVere buying your performance." "It depends on DeVere dismissing me as insignificant," Maya clarified. "Which leads us to Harmon." She glanced at the healing lacerations on her hands, where new skin was pulled taut. "Tomorrow, Harmon will hear from a reliable source that I submitted a formal complaint against him. It is the type of grievance that gets buried in a review committee for weeks. During that time, I will appear to be the exact person he always assumed I was. A woman who buckled under pressure and sought shelter behind regulations." Marsh just stared. "He will be unbelievably furious." "I know," Maya said. "He is going to turn your life on this base into a terrible ordeal." "I am relying on that," she answered. "And DeVere will be watching the entire spectacle. That is the whole idea. DeVere will report a compromised agent driven by emotion, causing disruption instead of doing her job. And he will forward that assessment to Phelps. Phelps will accept every single word because it reinforces everything he anticipated from the beginning." Solus moved a hand over his tired face. He seemed drained, like a man carrying a burden he was never meant to bear. "And while that drama unfolds," Maya continued, her voice firm, "I will follow every connection in DeVere's network directly to Phelps and assemble a case so flawless that neither of them will ever experience freedom again." She spoke with her typical composure, but her hands trembled just enough that she had to press them against her legs to conceal it. Remy noticed it. He always noticed. He leaned his body into hers, and his comforting warmth settled her nerves. She inhaled deeply and released her breath for a count of 4, precisely as she was taught. She allowed the tremor to come and then fade. 67 hours were left. 19 people to coordinate. One name she had only learned 14 hours prior. Her attention shifted to the asset at the safe house. She imagined a person in a small, concealed room, waiting for a rescue squad that was heading straight into an ambush. "You both should get some rest," she told Solus and Marsh. "Tomorrow is going to be chaotic." She walked out with Remy, the corridor walls feeling close. The base emitted its steady, low hum, and somewhere far off, Colonel Warren Phelps was sleeping soundly, confident he was beyond reach. He was mistaken about that. He was about to learn just how profoundly mistaken. The complaint appeared in Harmon's inbox at 600 hours. Maya felt the moment he read it. She was in the dining hall when he walked in, and the atmosphere of the room shifted, as it does when a predator occupies a confined area. He did not glance at her initially. That was the sign. An innocent man surveys his surroundings. A guilty one looks everywhere except at the object of his rage. It took him 11 seconds to find her. Maya was calmly eating her meal. She never looked up. He covered the distance in 8 long strides. He slammed both hands down on her table and loomed over her. His face was near enough for her to watch the angry red color creep up his neck. "You filed a complaint." His voice was a low, strained whisper from a man fighting the urge to shout. Maya set her fork down. She met his gaze with a look she had not rehearsed, because it was not necessary. She had been visualizing this very moment since 2 o'clock that morning. It was the expression of someone utterly embarrassed but attempting to conceal it, with just a touch of defiance to seem authentic. "I was simply adhering to protocol," she stated. "Adhering to protocol," he echoed with contempt. "We are on a military base in the middle of an operation, and you filed a formal grievance because you stumbled in a hallway." "I did not stumble," she replied. He glared down at her. "You are making a terrible error by making an enemy of me." "I am not trying to make enemies," Maya said. She allowed a trace of vulnerability into her voice, just enough to seem like she was losing her nerve. "I just felt the incident should be on record." Harmon shifted back slightly. He drew himself up to his full height and studied her like she was a thing he did not recognize anymore. "Do you have any idea of the consequences?" he asked. "This creates a negative entry in my service record until a board can convene. That could take 4 to 6 weeks. For more than a month, my energy will be consumed by this instead of my actual responsibilities." "I apologize if the timing is inconvenient for you," Maya offered. It was the most infuriating response she could have possibly given. She was fully aware of this. She said it because she needed it to sound like a selfish and completely unaware comment from a person who valued her own feelings above the mission. His jaw tightened. He removed his hands from the table. "This conversation is over," he stated, then pivoted and strode away. At an adjacent table, a member of his team who had witnessed everything pulled out his phone. From the edge of her vision, Maya saw him compose a message and permitted herself 4 seconds of grim satisfaction before she resumed eating. By noon, the story had circulated throughout Fort Cambria. Dver had received 3 separate accounts by 2 in the afternoon. Maya knew this because Marsh sent a text containing a single word, "running." It verified that Dver was relaying the story up the chain of command. It signified that somewhere in Washington, Colonel Warren Phelps was learning about an analyst who had lost her composure, initiated a conflict, and was more invested in personal drama than her duties. Maya was in her room when Solus appeared at her door. "The strategy is effective," he reported as she let him in. "I know." Marsh detected 2 additional outbound transmissions from Dver in the past hour. She was unable to decipher the messages, but the frequency and pattern perfectly matched his activities before cold water. He paused. He is transmitting intelligence. He believes he is no longer under suspicion, so he is sending information. Excellent, Maya said. Let him. I want Phelps to feel completely untouchable. Solis entered and took a seat. Remy's tail thumped once before the dog resumed his guard position by the door. I have to ask you about a detail, Solis began. It concerns the false rescue timeline you provided to Dver. If Phelps acts before we can intervene, our asset is trapped in that safe house. Solis continued. I understand that. We have 61 hours. I am fully conscious of our remaining time, Maya. He leaned in, placing his hands on his knees. His gaze was steady and direct, the look of a man who was done playing games. If this plan fails, that asset will never be recovered. Do you understand me? Our case needs to be absolutely flawless before our window closes. It will be, she assured him. How certain are you? She met his eyes, noting the deep creases on his face and the silver streaks in his hair. She knew he possessed a purple heart that he never showed, a medal he refused to wear because his own sense of honor was the only validation he ever needed. She thought of the 6 colleagues she lost on the cold water operation. My decision is not changing, she declared. I will not retreat. Solis let out a heavy sigh. That strategy sounds more hazardous every time you describe it. Good, she replied. That shows you are paying attention, and it is why I have faith in you. His expression softened for a moment. He gave a single nod and got to his feet. Marsh will require another 2 hours to map the entire system, he said. After that, we will be able to see the whole network. She has 90 minutes, Maya commanded. Tell her to stay off the alternate channel again tonight. Phelps will interpret 2 unusual events as an obvious pattern. Solis paused at the doorway. She had already considered that. I was confident she had, Maya answered. I just needed to say it myself. After he left, Maya remained seated in her chair with Remy. She was not strategizing, resting, or going over documents. She simply sat in the quiet. This stillness was also a necessary part of the work. It was the calm before the storm, a chance to steady oneself and prepare. Her thoughts drifted to the asset. For now, it was a code name, a risk assessment, and a few grainy photographs. But a real human being had been waiting for 3 weeks, putting their faith in a system to bring them home. But the entire system had been broken long before Maya accepted this job. The person inside that safe house was completely unaware of the threat they faced. She pressed her palms against her legs, welcoming the sharp ache of her healing wounds. The sensation was grounding, a link to something real. Unlike everything else, physical pain was always honest. Then, at 4:17 in the afternoon, the situation shifted. A message from Marsh arrived with only 2 words, "Come now." Maya reached the communications room in under 4 minutes, where Solis was waiting. Marsh was frozen, her face a canvas of disbelief, as if absorbing an unimaginable shock. "What's going on?" Maya asked. "The network trace is complete." Marsh began to speak. "I followed the data stream from Dver across 3 separate relays, and it led directly to Phelps. The evidence is absolute. We possess timestamps, security authentications, and message fragments that will ruin him." She paused for a moment. "That is the good part." "And the bad part?" Maya asked. Marsh angled her tablet so they could see. An incoming message was displayed, one that never appeared in Dver's sent folder. It had arrived 3 hours earlier. The transmission moved through 2 firewalls before pinging a cell tower just 42 miles from Fort Cambria. Phelps was not in the capital city. He was only 42 miles away from them. A heavy quiet once again filled the room. Maya was getting used to this particular silence, the feeling of 3 minds reaching the same terrible truth at once. "He's here," Solis whispered, his voice barely audible. "He was already close," Maya stated, her own voice firm despite a cold feeling washing over her. "He was in the area before Dver sent his message, before our fight, before any of this." She glanced at the monitor. "He didn't come for us. He was already on his way." "But for what reason?" Marsh asked. The answer clicked into place for Maya in just 4 seconds. He knew my actions didn't line up with the profile Devere gave him. Devere described me as incompetent, but Phelps must have had his doubts. He is here to judge for himself. He came to watch you, Solis concluded. He has eyes on all of us, Maya corrected him. She pictured Solis in her doorway the previous night. Did anyone else observe their conversation? She mentally walked back through her day, considering every doorway she passed and every conversation she had near a window. How much information does he have? Marsh questioned. Not the full picture, or we would already be compromised, Maya responded. But he has enough to destroy this entire mission. She stepped back from the tablet, turning away for a moment to collect herself. The fake extraction plan was already in motion. Devere had already relayed the false information. Phelps was aware of the plan, but his presence just 42 miles out proved he was on edge. It signaled that he did not fully buy the narrative Devere was selling. That single doubt created a narrow window for Maya. We are moving up the schedule, she announced. Solis offered a small objection. That is not our decision to make. High Command authorizes that, and they are not on site. Then we contact someone who is not on this base, Maya declared, turning back to them. Find me a secure channel. It must be completely separate from the base network, something Devere has not accessed in the past 3 years. That seriously limits our choices, Marsh remarked. What are the possibilities? Marsh considered it. Only my personal satellite phone. I configured it on a private server 3 years ago for exactly this type of emergency. It has never once connected to the base system. Maya simply stared at her. You planned for something like this? I planned for a day like this, Marsh answered softly. After what happened with Coldwater, I lost faith in the official system and created my own backup plan. She paused. I just hoped I would never have to use it. We have to use it now, Maya said. Her phone call lasted 8 minutes and 22 seconds. She spoke to one individual, a person whose name was never to be mentioned on this installation. The contact on the other line listened to her full summary without saying a word, posed only 3 questions, and then issued a single, decisive command. Give me 2 hours. Just 2 hours. The official mission clock still indicated 58 hours were left. Maya returned the phone to Marsh and faced Solis. The public-facing schedule will not change. Phelps needs to believe the original plan is moving forward. Whatever his reason for being here, he cannot suspect we know he is watching. How can we possibly do that? Solis asked. This close, he has to have surveillance. Phelps would never come 40 miles without setting up an observation team. You are correct, Maya agreed. He absolutely has us under observation. She visualized the base layout, its entry points, and every person who might be a security risk. This included contractors, suppliers, and a dozen civilians who had minimal security clearance. So, our task is to make sure today appears perfectly normal, Maya instructed. Harmon can maintain his act of being furious with me, which I am sure he can manage. Devere will file his reports thinking he has won, and I will continue to play the part of the most useless analyst at Fort Cambria. A faint smile touched Solis's lips. And how will you pull off that performance? Maya considered her next move. Her assignment for that night was straightforward. Visit the dining hall. She would sit at a table by herself. She needed to look utterly crushed. This was the core of her plan. Maya knew the greatest vulnerability of any operative. They see what they expect to see. Phelps was convinced she was a failure. Seeing her alone and dejected would only confirm his assessment. He would then write her off as a non-threat. She entered the mess hall and picked a small table meant for one. When Harmon entered with his people, one of them made a comment just loud enough to reach her. She ignored him and stared down at her meal. Her posture remained deliberately stiff. Under the table, Remy rested his head on her boot. Her thoughts turned to the asset waiting in the safe house. She contemplated the mechanics of a 2-hour extraction that had to remain completely off the enemy's radar. She envisioned Warren Phelps, 42 miles away, reviewing her dossier and debating if she was manufacturing this collapse. She sent up a quiet prayer. Please buy this performance. Let this be enough. At 7:43 in the evening, Marsh sent a text. The message was 3 words. Authorization is granted. Maya viewed the text beneath the table, keeping the phone hidden. Her thumb hovered over the screen as she let out a slow breath. The real rescue was now underway, on a schedule Dever knew nothing about and Phelps would never anticipate. The new plan was clean, the team was set, and the timeline was solid. Every single detail was confirmed. The asset would be safe long before Phelps realized he had been given false intelligence. That was the primary objective. However, it was only part 1 of Maya's real mission. Part 2 was Warren Phelps himself. She was after his entire network and the evidence of a corrupt system that had already led to 19 deaths. If she failed, more people would die. She possessed the proof. She had Dever's messages, with all the timestamps and digital verifications that would be admissible in any court. The only piece missing was a method to lure Phelps from his position without tripping his defenses. After sliding her phone back into her pocket, she picked up her fork. The food tasted like dust, but she forced it down. Under the table, her dog Remy nudged his head against her foot. His quiet, constant presence was the anchor she desperately needed. Time was running out. She had just 37 hours to take down Warren Phelps. Her plan was already in motion. She would use the one man on this base who hated her, weaponizing his animosity. He was loyal to Dever, totally unaware of the kind of man his superior really was. Her goal was to show Victor Harmon the truth, or a very specific version of it. She knew he would be hostile to anything she said at first. He would only believe something he could not possibly deny. At 9 p.m., she found Harmon in the empty motor pool. The choice of location was intentional, and not just for privacy. This was the exact spot where her humiliation began, where she was shoved to the ground, holding a leash while others laughed. The memory was seared into her mind. He needed to be standing here, to hear what was real. She was banking on the location to unbalance him. His head shot up when she approached. His look shifted to his standard expression of cold disdain. "I have nothing to say to you," he snapped. "That's fine," Maya said. "I am not here to talk. I am here to give you critical information. What you do with it afterward is completely your decision. I do not want anything from you." She ignored his refusal and continued. "Frank Dever has been selling classified information to the enemy for at least 8 months. His actions caused the deaths of 19 of our soldiers across 3 separate missions. The proof I have is undeniable. I have every message, every set of coordinates, every single timestamp. As we speak, his handler is 42 miles out, waiting for a signal that his asset is secure." A tense quiet descended on the large garage. Harmon stood there, frozen and silent. He gripped a wrench, his expression contorting from disbelief into a white-hot rage. "That's impossible," he breathed out. His entire demeanor had changed. The fury was gone, replaced by a fragile, cold hollowness. He sounded like a man watching his entire world crumbling around him. "I get why you want to reject this," Maya said, her voice soft. "But I also think you are sharp enough to see the facts, no matter how much they hurt." "Frank Dever is my friend," Harmon said. The word hung in the air, hollow and meaningless. "I know," Maya answered, her voice holding real sympathy, not manipulation. She understood the immense burden she was forcing him to carry. "I truly know he is." Harmon placed the tool on the workbench. His actions were controlled, as if he were fighting back in immense rage. "Let me see it," he commanded, and she complied. She had no paper files, nothing they could physically take from her. She offered him a secure tablet and watched while he processed the information. Looking at his face, she thought about the heavy price of betrayal. He scrolled through the proof for 6 long minutes. By minute 4, his breathing turned harsh. A minute after that, his other hand clenched into a tight, bloodless fist. When the time was up, he handed the tablet back. "Danny," he said. It was the exact name Maya expected to come from his lips. She knew it was unavoidable. She had known for 3 days, right after she found the name within the files. Danny was the prisoner mentioned in the briefing that DeVere had reviewed 4 days before she got there. Your brother has been a prisoner for 3 weeks, she said. The first rescue attempt was a trap from the very beginning. DeVere was aware of everything. Harmon made a sound that Maya would never be able to describe, a noise that would follow her. It was not a real word, just the raw noise of a mind shattering from an unbearable truth. Is my brother still alive? He demanded. Yes, Maya confirmed. His rescue operation was moved up 6 hours ago. It is operating on a new schedule that DeVere knows nothing about. We are going to bring your brother home, but first, I need to get to Warren Phelps before he realizes he has been exposed and vanishes. At that moment, Harmon looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. His entire view of her had shifted. She was no longer an analyst, a victim, or a joke. With his own worldview destroyed, he was finally able to see her for who she was. What do you need me to do? He asked. DeVere has total confidence in you, Maya told him. You are going to tell him you investigated my past, found something damaging, and think Command needs to be warned before I cause a bigger issue. Harmon tightened his jaw. So you are telling me to report you to him? I need you to give him a cause to phone Phelps, Maya clarified. Something that makes Phelps believe the game has already been won. Men of his type get careless when they feel victorious. He will emerge from hiding to supervise the final steps himself. And when he gets here, Harmon said, as understanding dawned, you will be waiting to greet him. When he arrives, Maya corrected. All of us will be waiting for him. The silence that followed was heavy and different. It was the sound of a man transitioning from one reality to another. It was a profound, costly, and completely necessary change. If any part of this turns out to be a mistake, Harmon said quietly. There are no mistakes, Maya replied. He met her gaze for a long moment. He then picked up the wrench from the bench. He turned it over in his hand and then set it down. Tell me exactly what to say. At 10:30 that night, DeVere received Harmon's report. He contacted Phelps at 10:41. Marsh monitored the entire phone call. Maya waited in the hallway outside of DeVere's room, with Remy silent beside her. She could detect the low hum of network data. At 10:49, a single word came from Marsh, moving. Phelps was on his way. The cell signal started to move, barely noticeable at the start. Then it began traveling at the confident speed of a person who is certain of their power. The distance shrank from 42 miles to 38, and then down to 29. He was nearing the base without any hurry, with the self-assurance of a man arriving to a show he was directing. Maya's available time was now only 19 minutes. Solace, she whispered into her communication device. I am standing by, came the answer from the eastern edge. Marsh, are you getting a live recording? Marsh answered, All systems are active. We are capturing everything he says. Harmon. After a short pause, he said, Ready. His voice was empty of all feeling, weighed down by the awful price of his assignment. The vehicle carrying Phelps came through the civilian entry point at 11:12 p.m. His identification cleared the check without a problem, just as they knew it would. A man with his authority ensures that all paths are open to him. Harmon was in the main hall waiting for him. Maya listened to their entire conversation on a hidden microphone. She heard Harmon's greeting, then the sound of Phelps's voice effortlessly strong and commanding. Report the situation, Phelps instructed. Our issue is the analyst, Harmon said. His voice was calm, which caught Maya off guard. She has been acting on her own since she arrived, Harmon explained. I am convinced her first intelligence report was a complete lie. And her information came from? Phelps questioned. That is the piece of information I need from you, sir, Harmon answered. You can see the whole game. I can only see my own square. That was the lure. The trap was laid perfectly, and Phelps, blinded by his own arrogance, walked right into it. The main asset is safe, Phelps said. Cole poses no risk. She has wasted 11 days following a dead end, and her rescue plan is off by 18 hours. By the time her team acts on her information, the chance will be long gone." He spoke with the casual confidence of someone talking to a trusted ally. His remarks were so specific, so full of classified information, that they served as a full confession. He shared things he had no right to know, details from a single, compromised informant. That was the go-ahead. Maya moved instantly. She walked into the hall, with Remy and Solace at her sides. 3 other agents, approved the previous night, followed close behind. They had been present for 6 hours in street clothes, undetected because no one was searching for them. Phelps spun around quickly. His face was calm, sharp, and reflected his years of command. But the instant his eyes locked with Maya's, everything changed. It was not panic. It was realization. He did not know who she was, but he understood the situation completely. The tactical way her team was arranged informed him that his time was up. "Colonel Warren Phelps," Maya said. Her voice was as firm as it had been the entire week. "You are under arrest. You will be tried by a military court for conspiracy, improper conduct, and for your involvement in the deaths of 19 American service personnel." Phelps just looked at her without expression. His eyes went from her team to Harmon. Harmon looked right back at him, his own face a perfect mask. "Victor," Phelps pleaded, a final, desperate try using his first name. "Do not," Harmon said, his voice quiet but solid as steel. Phelps did not say another word. He was smart enough to stay silent. He stood still as they confiscated his credentials and cuffed his hands. A hidden device recorded every sound as all expression left his face, the look of a man seeing his 30-year empire collapse in a hallway at 11 on a Tuesday night. DeVere was taken into custody in his room only 4 minutes later. Maya listened from the hallway, while Remy nudged her hand with his head. She held him tightly, feeling the sting of her own recent injuries, a pain that was hers alone. Solace came to stand next to her. For a moment, they both stood in the type of silence that follows the end of a mission. "Danny Harmon's flight will land in 41 hours, Maya finally shared. Solace took a long, slow breath. "Does Harmon know?" "He will in about 3 minutes, Maya said, "as soon as I am done telling him." She walked to the reception area to find Harmon. He stood against a wall with folded arms, a look of deep conflict on his face. He glanced up as she approached. He had the dazed expression of a man trying to accept impossible news. "DeVere?" he asked her. "He is in custody," Maya confirmed. "Everything is over." He gave a slow, strained nod that looked like it took all his energy. Harmon's voice was full of emotion. "We were acquainted for 11 years. "I know," Maya said softly. "I do not have a clue how to handle this. You do not need to understand it all tonight," she told him. He looked at her, and the stern expression on his face began to soften. It was not an apology, but for her, it felt almost the same. He glanced at your hands. "They are healing," she said. Then she gave him the news about Danny. She saw his entire reality shatter right before her eyes. For a single second, his eyes filled with tears that he immediately forced back. He caught his breath for a moment, and then his breathing stabilized. He lifted the back of his hand to his mouth. 41 hours, he whispered to himself. 41 hours, Maya repeated. He nodded one final time and turned toward the wall. She allowed him the moment, knowing that some sorrows require privacy. Remy walked to Harmon and gently pressed his nose to his hand. The large man looked down at the dog. His control did not break, but a flash of raw feeling showed through the cracks. He put a hand on Remy's head. Remy stayed right there, a quiet companion. By 4 a.m, the military tribunal had the complete evidence file. The file included documents outlining the whole network, conversation recordings, digital proof, and the tape of Phelps's own confession. The case was unbeatable, put together in just 11 days by the one person on the base that nobody considered a threat. The rescue was officially a success at 2 p.m. the following day. The asset was recovered safely by way of a route that DeVere had no knowledge of. The team's orders were never sent through any channel Phelps could see. It was a flawless operation, the kind you get when a mole has finally been caught. This shows what happens when skill is finally allowed to work freely. Maya was not present for the extraction. She was occupied in a 9-hour review, recalling every move and fact from her time at Fort Cambria. She answered all questions with her signature calm and pinpoint accuracy. She remembered it all: the gravel lot, the heavy boots, the mocking voices, and the 11 seconds a man chose to ignore an injustice he saw clearly. After the debriefing, she and Remy went outside into the cool night. She paused, looked to the sky, and inhaled the sweet feeling of a victory earned. 19 names. They were still with her, but the heavy burden was gone. They were her motivation, the entire reason she came here 11 days ago, took the humiliation on the gravel, and waited for the perfect moment. Success is not always a loud or showy thing. Sometimes victory is quiet and takes patience. It is about being prepared to be overlooked and having complete faith that your time will absolutely come. Maya Cole had known this her whole life. She was just waiting for everyone else to catch on. If this story connected with you, reminding you that real power is quiet and courage does not need to be loud, I invite you to subscribe. Please, share the name of your town in the comments so I can see how far this message goes. And if you agree that the person who is most overlooked is often the most powerful, please write Amen. I am sending you my very best, wherever you happen to be in this world.